Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to have a look at the ISU-122S, but before that I wanted to say a massive thank you for the success of the last video. Everything, like all the responses it got, was really great, and I never expected it to do that well, especially within the first month of being released. So thank you all so much for the comments, the shares, everything. Really much appreciated, so thank you guys so much for that. Now, the nearly month break between the last video and this one has sort of been partially down to what I'm probably going to try and do for the future of the channel. But I'll talk about that at the end, so I'm not distracting from talking about the tank that I'm supposed to be reviewing today. So, the ISU-122S. I wanted to have a look at this tank initially because it's very much slept on, and it's at a place in the Russian tree that's almost impossible to really appreciate because it is the only 6.0 tank. And it's also folded with another tank that also isn't quite popular, just the regular ISU-122. So no one really bothers to play this, and I think it's actually in the top 10 or at least top 20 least played Russian vehicles. And so I wanted to actually show you how brilliant this vehicle actually is. Because I love the ISUs. I've always had a weird fascination with them. I think the armour can be decently effective, deceptively effective almost, and the gun at the battle rating and the reload of the gun is something that I'm quite a big fan of. So one thing you might not be expecting is the ace reload of this tank. Now I've bought an ace crew for it, probably the only person in the game who's bought an ace crew for this tank, but just think about it before I tell you. This is a 122 at 6.0. What do you think, I guess, the ace reload would be? Got it? Right, the ace reload for this tank is 15.2 seconds, and that's for a 122. Also bear in mind that you're a tank destroyer, and you've got, it costs very little spawn points to spawn this thing in, and even in up tier, your gun is going to be able to deal with pretty much anything you're going to see as well. And sure, the mobility's not great, the armor's not fantastic where it is, but they're both functional. They both can work in situations, and the trick to this vehicle really is just finding the spots on the map where you can use it the most effectively, and I've got a game today where I hopefully have shown just that. So before I go into that, I'm going to show you a little bit about the armour of the vehicle, just because you might not be familiar with it, and also have a look at the lineup that I've been using for 6.0 Russia as well. So, with the ISU-122S, the armour is a little bit different, not too much though. The hull armour is generally the same, it's an angled 90, but the armour around the breech is a little bit different. You've got this sort of overlapping bit here, a little bit of extra protection at the bottom as well. So you might be looking at it at 6.0 and thinking it's not really very good, but one thing that I found saves me a lot is angling it this way, with this part of the armor facing the enemy. So if you're facing a tank, the tank's off in this direction, you need to angle this part of the armor towards them. And especially if you have bushes as well, because if you're driving away like this, the places they're likely going to hit are going to be here, here, or here. If they go here, all that's really going to happen is you're going to lose your breach, maybe a couple crew members inside, but it's not going to cripple you. And if you're angled like this, just in this particular arrangement here, this is quite often a bounce like this, and this bit of armor here is so small to hit, especially if you have even jerry cans or like a single bush you could cover it up. It actually is quite effective. If you're reversing on the move, this thing is quite difficult to effectively take out. I've noticed a lot of people do struggle with it, and especially if you're stupid enough to have bought all of the bushes, like me, you can put the arrangement up like this. And why this is effective is because if you put the bushes on it like this, the tank looks almost symmetrical, and people are going to assume, like most tanks are, it's symmetrical. So if you angle it like this with bushes, they're going to think that it's the same on this side, which is the flat bit, on this side as well. So you can kind of trick people with the bushes into shooting here and expecting an easy pen. If that is there, like the 80 or the 90 or the German 88, excuse me, 75, it's going to bounce. And you can really just screw with people by doing it like that. And I've had a lot of success using the tank like that when I'm backing away after taking a shot. So anyway, onto the lineup. First off, I want to really say that I don't really think that a 6.0 lineup is going to be too effective with this thing. It's more best used as a replacement for the ISU-100 in a 6.3 lineup. But if you are wanting to use this tank on its own, this is what I've been using. I've been using the T-3485 along with the premium one there, just because they're standard, good all-around medium tanks. The armor's, nothing to really write home about. I think that's the thing people say anymore, but you've got the mobility, you've got the gun, and it's all you really need for a tank around that battle rating. With your heavy, standard, going to go with the IS-2. It's all really about the gun at that battle rating anyway. You're not going to be able to rely on the armor too much. You might get the lucky bounce if you're on the move, but it's just going to be your standard heavy that you're going to want to have just in case you're at one of those lucky up tiers, down tiers, excuse me, I can never get those right. For your SPA, I like to go with the Type 65 since it's a pretty adequate tank destroyer as well as an SPA. I'm not really too good in the SPA role with this tank, but it does the job pretty well. If you don't have this one, the ZSU-37 or the BTR both do a pretty decent job as well. For your aircraft, I just only take out the SU-6 as, in my opinion, it is the best ground attacker in the game. Your 37s can reliably pen pretty much any tank in the game top down, so you can wipe out crew, engines, breaches. It's all really, really easy. You've also got 10 RBS rockets as well, which are the AP rockets. They're not too easy to get kill shots with, but if you actually penetrate the armor with these, whatever you're shooting at is going to die. So it's, all around the best vehicle you could possibly be taking out for this lineup. So hopefully I did a semi-decent job of explaining all of that. Right, onto the gameplay that we've got today. Right, so the match I've got today is 6.3 on Eastern Europe against Germany. And all I really want to do with this tank is, I'm not really a good brawler, so I'm going to sit just outside the spawn up here behind this hill and watch the road that the enemies are going to come down from their spawn and from the A point, to usually get quite a decent flurry of activity coming up from there. So all I really need to do is sit behind this little mound in between the bushes and I can find a target to shoot at. And just as I stop really, one does come up, and I'm not really used to the aim yet, so I do get a bit of a lousy shot on it, but it is a command tiger, which is something that I actually can't really pen unless I hit a weak spot, and it's not going to be too easy. So, just use the reverse speed, back up, and I'm already a third of my way through the reload on the 122. So, I'm just really waiting for him to fire so I can come back out, give him some love, but he gets taken out already by the T-44. But I do know a tiger's already pushed up, so I'm just waiting for him to come behind the building there. He does, and knock him out too. And you notice there actually I got the overmatch on the lower side portion of the tiger, which shows just how ridiculous this gun is as well. Like it's about 56mm I think, so it can overmatch pretty effectively, and it's quite harrowing for tiger drivers when you get kills like that. So I'm just having a look around in the woods and I see a panther drive up, so I'm just going to poke out here, swing the gun around, don't put myself too out of cover, just wait for him to drive out and straight through the side. It's going to be another easy kill really, and for the most part that's what the majority of this match is going to be. I mean, I don't really have any reason to push out. I found a spot that works for this tank. I don't need to be greedy, push out and try and get more kills. I can wait safely behind the ridge there and just wait for people to come to me, or at least come into a position where I can shoot them. So another look around, I see something fire in the woods there, he doesn't see me, and I can see another tiger driving across. Decide to go for him because he's going to be out of my line of sight, and I'm probably not going to get another chance to shoot him, but that tank in the woods can pretty much only stay there. So I can just wait for my reload, which again is pretty horribly good, and I can just poke out and get another shot, and that's 15 seconds. It's basically when the reload ends I can find another target to shoot at, and I think it just really does show the destructive power that this tank can have, as it is really effective at taking up pretty much anything. I mean, sure, you might get up to 7.0 where you can be facing Tiger 2s and things like that, but even so, as long as you're not too far away, you can deal with those tanks. I mean, that's not going to be what you're going to be up against most of the time anyway, but you can deal with them, so I don't really think it's too much of a negative in that case anyway. See a whirlwind, just drive out, take a shot at that, but sadly the fuse doesn't go off and I get denied a kill by the KV-85, but no, T-34 actually, excuse me, but can't have them all, can you? So This gameplay isn't going to be the most riveting thing. I'm not going to be out brawling, trading shots with people. It's going to be just, this is how you play the tank. I know not every map has a spot like this, but you're going to need to try and find a place that works for you where you're not in too much danger of getting shot or flanked, and you can just stay in cover and pop in and out, and just have shots like this, and people are going to drive in front of you. And there are lines of sight on most maps where you can do that, and the trick to tanks like this is, sadly, it's patience. You know, you're not going to want to drive out. Like, I could be driving to B now and trying to take the point, but if I do that, I might get 1 or 2 more kills, but I'm going to die. And I think I'm going to have a much better time just sitting up here and waiting for people to come to me and getting more kills that way and taking out more tanks that way, because I don't have anything else in this lineup that's quite up to the standard of this tank for killing power. So now I've realised there's a lot of tanks that have been on the flank, and most of the tanks on my team on the flank have died. So I want to kind of hang around here and try and intercept at least one of them, because I know there's going to be something here and I'd rather be prepared instead of waiting for him to come to me. So I plan on just sitting here underneath this ridge so I can look over the hill and hopefully prepare for something to come over to me first, or look to the right and see when it comes around the bushes. And I see Tiger come around there, and I use the reverse gear to swing the tank round quicker than I could in neutral, go right through the side again with the overmatch and take out another Tiger, which is a very satisfying shot, that one. So at this point in the game, the team's pretty much dead. So there's not really too much I can do apart from just be as much of a nuisance as I can and take out as many tanks as I can and protect our last cap point, as there are quite a few tanks around there now. Just scanning around me because there could be something else on the flank and I don't want to die at this point, so I'm just going to get myself off the ridge because I am a pretty easy target for anything respawning, so that Tiger knows I'm here now and quite a few other tanks know I'm here as well. But all I'm going to really do is come back to where I was before and try and take the tanks out. I've just capped the C point to stop them killing the AA in the spawn. You know, last ditch effort. There's not really much I can do. It's a lost game, but at least I can be as annoying as possible. There's a Tiger nicely sitting there, straight through the front again. Another easy one shot, and that's racking up another kill for the total. And one thing I tried to show in this match was just how devastating the anti-air gun that you've got on the top there is, but I do spend a lot of time just sort of sitting still and trying to shoot them down, not really going very well, so I have cut those segments out. So pull over here again, just trying to get some more kills. Nothing's really popped up. I don't really fancy driving to B on my own. So another SPA, swing it round, don't do what I did last time and aim low so there's more chance for the fuse to get set off. Detonates right underneath all of the crew and takes them out as well. And I can just pull back using again the great reverse gear on this tank and hide behind the hill. Gun's pretty much already reloaded. I can drive right back out and defend the C point again, as something else has just driven onto it. And coming up here, I think, is the demonstration of why you should give this vehicle a go. I swing around, start having a look around, make sure nothing's going to get me from my right, pull back so I can get the depression, and just have a look at what's on the C point while trying to give some of the aircraft some business quite poorly. This is quite late, my aim wasn't too great. But so looking down to the C point here, I'm just waiting for whatever's capping to drive off. Because what they're going to do obviously is drive towards the spawn to try and kill whatever's just respawned. They're probably going to think there's some AA there, they're going to drive off, they're not going to sit on the C point. And so just as the point gets capped here, I'm going to switch back to my main gun, as I shouldn't really be focusing on the air at a point like this anyway, I'm just a bit bored. And it's a SATS M10. I fire, I take out the turret crew and the engine. Now, you know, that's not a one shot, and if I was in, you know, like the IS-2 or the ISU-122 regular, I couldn't do this. But by the time that his crew members come back and he turns the turret to try and figure out where I am, I'm already reloaded. And that's something that you would never really expect to happen on a 122, and it's something that I was quite surprised at the time, and that's when I knew, you know, this is a vehicle that I need to show people the advantages of, because it's just not being used. I think it is one of the lowest played mainline vehicles for Russia in the entire game. So that's all there really is to this match. There's nothing really that I can do. If I drive out, I'm likely going to die, and I don't really want to push it at a time like this. So it's just me sitting here trying to shoot down some aircraft without really too much success. So I think the main downside to this vehicle, for people having shown you how it works, is that it's not incredibly engaging. You're not going to be driving out, you're not going to be getting, you know, some amazing Thunder Show worthy plays. You're going to be sitting back, camping, I guess, almost, but you are going to get good results because you can lay down an effective volume of fire, like a lethal volume of fire, at a pretty decent rate for the caliber that you have. You know, it's a 122. The overmatch that it has is fantastic, the damage it has is fantastic, and now the reload it has is fantastic as well. The only thing is that you can be caught in a compromising situation, and if you do, there's not much you can do to get out of it. You don't have the speed, you don't have the mobility, you don't have the effective armor. You do have decent armor, but again, it's not as reliable as it possibly should be, so you're going to want to play it conservatively. And I know that's not really a playstyle for everyone, and further from that, it's not a playstyle that you can actually incorporate on every single map. This tank will not be constantly a viable option. You can't always find a map or a spawn, like a side of the map you can spawn on, where this tank is going to be a constantly viable, reliable option. But on some maps, it is. And this is where I think parts of the issues this tank has come in that this tank is a weird place. It's the only 6.0 tank Russia has, so banking on getting a 6.0 game and using this as the vehicle that you're effectively maining, as it's the only vehicle that you're really basing your lineup off if it's a 6.0 lineup, isn't the best idea, simply put, because this tank isn't always going to be effective. You're not going to be guaranteed a map where this tank will work as effectively as I've shown it can do right there. So it's a bit of a tricky one. I don't think this tank should really be down tiered to 5.7. I think it would do the same as it does at 6.0 at 5.7, but I don't know if Gaijin would be willing to put the ISU-122 down to 5.3. I don't know if they both work at the same battle rating, so it's a bit of a tricky one. This tank is a decent addition to a 6.3 lineup for Russia, but then you come into territory of, you know, why wouldn't you play the SU-100? It's faster, it's got a quicker reload, it's got more pen, it's got a more reliable gun, it's easier to aim, there's less of a chance you're going to miss, you know, it's easier to use, more reliable. Why would you use this over that? The only thing I can really say is that you've got the overmatch, but that's not really something to bother taking it out over. So replacing it in a 6.3 lineup, just, you know, there's not much point to it, sadly. So this tank isn't really going to be appreciated very much. And, you know, it does make me think that maybe this should be 5.7, just so there's actually a reason for people to take it out, as there isn't really a reason to keep it at its BR. I mean, sure, you can use it at 6.3, but there are better options to take out. I mean, at least in my opinion, I think the SU-100 is better than this tank. But this tank is fun, and it is surprising, and I did have a really good time with it. It's just a shame that it's not really allowed to be as effective as it could be. You know, it's not really the vehicle's fault. You know, the drawbacks start to come in and take the form of the armor not really being incredibly effective. You know, the American 76 can pen you from the front at almost any range, really. You know, the German guns, all of them can pen you frontally if you're not angled in that way I showed you earlier. So it's just, it's not really quite good enough to recommend to play all the time. You know, it's not like a hidden gem in that you can take it out in any match, in any battle rating, any lineup, and it's going to do well, because it won't. You're going to need a proper spot to use this tank right. You know, the reverse gear is brilliant. You know, it helps to get out of tricky spots, but the mobility itself in a straight line and from a static position, the whole traverse just isn't really good enough for it to be viable in a brawling position. The anti-air gun is great. You know, if you've got someone flying right at you, you can pilot snipe them, knock the engine out really effectively. I was really surprised at how good that was. So it's a tricky one. I would recommend it. I'd really like to see a few more of these around, because if you do, at least even if you have an expert crew, you can do a lot of damage with this thing, and it's pretty funny to do what I did to that Panther M10 and before. You know, when he got his crew members back, turned the turret, was just probably about to line up a shot, and he's already dead. You know, from a 122 cannon. That's something you just do not expect whatsoever. So I do love this tank. I think it's fantastic, but I don't really think it's given the opportunity to work as effectively as it probably could. So for that reason, I'm going to be rating it today a 7 out of 10. Alright, cheers guys, I really hope you enjoyed the video. Again, sorry it's taken about a month to get this back on track. It's just, it's been a bit of a weird time. I've had no heating or hot water for the last month, so it's been very cold, and I've been in a bit of a down mood, you know, due to that. So it's just been, I haven't really been able to push myself to get this out, because I kept thinking, you know, it's not going to be good enough, and I'm not going to be able to do it as effectively as I want to. So I just kind of put off doing it. So, you know, I'm sorry for that. I mean, I should know better. I'm a content creator. I should be putting out stuff as quickly as I can, so that's a me problem. I'm hopefully going to get over it soon. But as I mentioned earlier, I want to try and start maybe a new series for the channel, maybe. And on my Discord, I did a straw poll, and the top 2 options were like a kind of a search for the worst kind of thing, where I'd go through and look at maybe what the worst tanks or planes were of any particular kind of rank or nation, and it kind of, you know, be a bit of fun, try and find what the worst options to take out are. Or a series where I'd look at difficult tanks to kill, so like a how to kill series. So, you know, we can look at vehicles like the Jumbo or the KV-1B, stuff like that people, you know, might struggle with. I can go really in depth at how to take these things out, because I know a lot of people do have a pretty tricky time with them, and it's, you know, it kind of dampens the experience of the whole game. If you run into one, you don't really know what to do. So that's another option. So if you'd like to contribute to that, please feel free to join up to the Discord. No pressure though, you know, it's just if you want to. I'd like people that watch the videos to have a bit of more of an impact on what I make, just so I can make content that everyone enjoys. On that note, I really do hope you enjoy, and you know, ratings, everything greatly appreciated, and hopefully I will see you sooner rather than later for the next one. Thank you very much. Goodbye.